Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, my name is Adrian. I am the founder of the Pageant Project. Now, if you have been following me on Instagram, you would have seen I've been pretty busy, or Facebook. I forget about Facebook. If you've been following me there, you will see that I have changed tack in terms of what I'm doing in the pageant industry over the last couple of weeks. And I've been talking a lot about pageant coaching and ushering in a new era of pageant coaching. Now, I know that sounds great, that sounds fancy, but I wanted to give you in this video a bit more of an in-depth behind the scenes look as to what's going on. Hopefully then some of you who are interested in what we're doing can join in, because we're looking to create obviously a coaching community. And when I say we, I'm doing this with two business partners over in the United States of America, one being Gracie Pfaff and the other one being Danielle Mullins. But before we get into it, just to give you a bit of background in case you don't know me or you've only seen me once or twice and have no idea who I am, if you have seen me before, it's probably been in the guise of pageant interviewer. I know some of you have seen some of the content I've put out, let's say on YouTube or podcasts, where I've been giving my thoughts or my advice on pageantry, but I'm probably, at least at this stage, most famous for the over 300 interviews that I've done with pageant contestants over the years. Now, that started here in Australia, it then branched out to the UK, now in America. At this stage, interviewed people from pretty much every system under the sun. I would be pretty surprised if there is a well-known system out there. Obviously, there's going to be smaller, niche, local ones, but I'd be pretty surprised at this stage if there's a big system out there and I've not interviewed a single person who is competing that in. Now, that all being said, that journey started about 8 years ago. And I will put here, if I can remember it, a link to a video where I talked about my pageant origin story, for want of a better word, but specifically what's been happening recently. And I alluded to this in that previous video. I've noticed over the years, over the 8 years, that there used to be a lot more interest in telling pageant girls stories and doing the interviews. What I've noticed more recently, as more and more people have gotten into interviews, the viewership in interviews has not been where I wanted it to be. And that's for a multitude of reasons, which I won't go into here. But I always saw myself as an interviewer first. Over the years, what I've noticed as I've interviewed more and more people and grown my own network of people that I know, I've noticed that more and more people have been approaching me, not only for paid coaching, and at this stage I have coached girls, contestants from massive systems such as Miss USA, Miss America, Miss Universe, and other systems as well. I just know those are the three sort of biggest ones. At one stage, I think it was the 2021 edition of Miss Universe over in Israel, and I think there were 4 of my coaching clients on that stage, which was pretty mind-boggling to me as someone who never wanted to go into coaching. So what I've noticed is more and more people have been approaching me for coaching. More and more people have been interested in what I have to say or the feedback or the advice. And I don't think they're coming to me because I'm so brilliant, in inverted commas. I think they're coming to me, A, because I'm honest and I have a kind of a outside perspective. Obviously, I'm not someone who's competed in pageantry before, but that can be an advantage when you're looking for a different perspective. So I've noticed that. And then also the videos that I put out, the content I put out that gives some of my opinions on maybe some of the issues that the industry has been facing. And I've also been called on to do a lot of work behind the scenes. Let's say some of the uglier things that a lot of people don't know about. So I've been involved advising in a couple of legal cases. I have been involved in doing some contract reviews, some NDA reviews. And if you can imagine, after you've interviewed hundreds of pageant contestants and you're trusted as a neutral authority in the space, you become privy to a lot of the guts of the industry, for want of a better word, and people come and seek your guidance and advice. And I love that people trust me enough to do that. But I thought, given that interview viewership is kind of tapering off, and again, multitude of reasons for that, and there seems to have also been a corresponding increase in the demand for quality coaching, quality advice that's real, authentic, transparent, and by the way, affordable. I also thought it's kind of pertinent to me as a person, because I am always someone who's looking at, okay, what's the best way for me to contribute, not only to this industry, in life in general, but what's the biggest impact I can have in pageantry? And I alluded to this in my pageant origin story. I think I'm now transitioning to a place where I don't think the interviews are the biggest or the most useful thing that I can do. Now, don't get me wrong. I may very well one day go back and do an interview. I'm not saying I'm never going to interview again, but I have been a coach all my life, even my very first job out of university. And I studied in Bachelor of Science, majoring in IT and computer science. But even my first 9 to 5 job, and it was the only 9 to 5 job that I ever had because since then I've run my own business. But my first 9 to 5 job straight out of college or university was working in IT. But the part that I enjoyed the most was helping people with their IT problems. Looking back at it now, I see that's kind of funny because I find sometimes helping people with IT problems to be quite frustrating, especially my mum. She's not IT savvy at all. But I loved not just the helping part, but being able to explain something that someone found very confusing, namely IT, and being able to explain it in a way that empowered them, not just saying, hey, you're so stupid, I'll do it for you, and then never talk to me again. But actually, no, your concern is valid. Your problem is valid. This is probably very difficult to understand who doesn't have a technical brain. You're not stupid. Let me explain it to you and empower you so that you can do it for yourself in the future. The other job I had before that was like a casual job, teenager growing up to get some cash, was tutoring. I loved tutoring, maths tutoring, science tutoring. I think those are the two main ones, science being chemistry and physics, I think. But a lot of people look at tutoring as, oh my God, I need to deal with, teenagers or young kids, whatever, and that's a hassle. No, I really love being able to. I can remember several specific instances, even though it was a long time ago, where I would explain something to a student and you would see the light bulb, like the light go on in their face and in their eyes because suddenly they realize, hey, I understand this now and I don't feel as stupid anymore. You don't understand. Like, if you haven't worked with kids or teenagers, you might just think they're stroppy and they're, pain in the butt. And I get that because they can be. But a lot of them, they really do want to do well. And sometimes there's just this attitude that comes with it. But very often they feel like if they're not getting something, that they're a failure or it's embarrassing or that they're going to be perceived as stupid. And I took a lot of joy in showing anyone, no matter how much natural, let's say, IQ they have, showing anyone, hey, I get where you're at. I can understand why you're struggling. And here are the simple steps that you can follow to get this and understand this. And then after that, I became a tennis coach. And I love coaching. I was working at an all-girls school, by the way. And if you haven't heard the origin story, that's really how I got into pageant coaching or into pageantry in the first place, was working at that all-girls school as a head tennis coach. But all this to say, I've always seen myself as a coach first. I then subsequently got a life coaching qualification from Tony Robbins. If you don't know him, he's had he's one of the probably the biggest and most well-known life coach in the world. He had a show on Netflix called I'm Not Your Guru, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend you do that. And if you're interested in becoming a life coach, I highly recommend following him. But I got fascinated with watching him work because I would go to his seminars and he would be able to turn around people in one conversation, not years and years of therapy, lying on a couch, getting nowhere. And I became fascinated by this idea that I could have a one conversation with someone and turn their life around. Conversation may not be short, but one conversation and can turn your life around. And we follow up a year later, 3 years later, 5 years later, and that change has lasted. It's not a change in the moment, it's a lasting change. And so this whole idea of going more seriously, I don't know if that's the right word, because into pageant coaching, I say I'm not sure it's the right word because I've always taken my work seriously. I don't take myself seriously at all. If you know me, you know this to be true. But I've always taken what I do seriously. And when you come to me for a session, I take you very seriously. But maybe rather than seriously, it's focusing on the coaching more versus the interviewing. So that's kind of the I wanted to explain the change in direction because I know that some of you think of me only as an interviewer. I just want you to get, it's not a casual one-off, oh, let's try coaching. I've actually been called on to coach a lot of people. in the past more behind the scenes, and I haven't really advertised it because I haven't thrown myself into it fully, because I have been the pageant interviewer. But now, suffice to say, I think it's time for a change of direction. My thought process, and this was a thought process that happened about 2 weeks ago, 2 to 4 weeks ago, and I have dabbled in coaching before, but I thought if I'm going to do this, I want to make a proper go of it. And I know from myself, having worked my own business for a long time, I work best when I'm surrounded by other people, because then you're accountable to your team. When it's just you, it's very easy to slack off or to make a promise to yourself and then not follow through, because no one's going to know if you don't follow through. So I knew that I wanted to surround myself with other people who would help me coach and I could hopefully build a business around. And so immediately two people came to mind. And this is where I reached out to both Gracie Pfaff and Danielle Mullins, who are over in the States. Now, to give you an idea, I'm not going to go into their bios because you can look at their bios. You can go and look them up on Instagram and on social media, and I certainly recommend that you do that. But just to give you a brief overview, Gracie is someone I've interviewed multiple occasions. And the reason I interviewed her, because when I was interviewing, I would look for the people who I thought were most interesting. I wasn't interested in how many followers they had or the big title they had. What drew me to Gracie was not only how well spoken and authentic she seemed to be, she started up her own non-profit, a genuine non-profit. I think they call it a 107 or something. So not just I've started up an Instagram profile. She started up a genuine non-profit at the age of 12. And I don't know what you were doing at the age of 12, but I certainly wasn't setting up non-profits. And that non-profit was centered around feeding people in poorer countries such as Haiti and teaching them sustainable agriculture. So to be doing that at the age of 12 blew my mind. There's a lot of people who I look at and go, yeah, your advocacy, it's not really real. You talk a good game, but you're not actually doing anything. Gracie was not that. And so I immediately loved what she stood for. Danielle Mullins, former Miss Earth USA, walked one of the biggest pageant stages in the world. And she's also someone that I interviewed, have gotten subsequently to know very, very well. And she's also a makeup artist, a professional makeup artist. If you have a look at her Instagram, you can see some of the makeup looks that she has. I mean, makeup is far, far, far out of my purview, but she's amazing at what she does. She's also a very, very strong entrepreneur, and she's had the international experience, right? Winning Miss Earth USA is no easy task. The other thing that to bear in mind is I don't have the makeup experience, right? I don't have the experience at setting up my own nonprofit. But those two don't have the experience of interviewing 300 pageant contestants from around the world. So my point there is, yes, I wanted to surround myself with other people that I could bounce ideas off so that I really follow through on this idea. But the other thing is I wanted to surround myself with people who had skills that were complementary to my own. There was no point me just bringing in having three people. If we're going to front you with three coaches and they all have the same experience and they all do the same thing, you might as well just have one coach. I would say that we have probably pretty strong beliefs and values in common when it comes to pageantry. That's how we can work together, but we have differing skill sets. So that's what happened about 2 weeks ago. I jumped on a call with Gracie and Danielle and I said, hey, all right, look, I know you guys, I like you guys, I trust you guys. Here's an idea. What do you think? And here's where I want to get into more of the details behind the scenes, what we discussed. I wanted to start with a target audience. Like, who did we want to work with? And this is important to you because if you're not in our target audience, you're not going to want to work with us and you should just switch this off. If you are in our target audience, then you will know this because as I go through this list, you're going to go, oh, wow, that is me. And that's also, by the way, why we're doing a lot of free content, especially on Instagram and Facebook. If you're looking at that, we're hitting that hard, giving out a lot of stuff, and we're going to be jumping on lives and bringing on people so you can get your questions answered for free live. We're doing that because we really want to show people that A, we know what we're doing, but B, we also want to get to know you and find out exactly what it is you want. So to start with, okay, what's the dream outcome? Now, obviously, you want to win a title, your dream title. It's of differing levels of importance to different people, but I don't think anyone enters a pageant intending to come last. So let's say, okay, you want to win your dream title, but here's a point of difference. I really want to, and both Gracie and Danielle have backed me up on this, we want to work with people who see pageantry as a stepping stone, not as the end unto itself. So if your only goal in life is to win a particular title and that's it, you don't want to do anything else, you don't care about the rest of your life, you don't want to use a title for anything, you just want to win the title, we're not going to be probably the coaches for you. And so I thought it was really important to put the and in here, winning your dream title and creating an amazing life as a result or as a byproduct. I often say that the best way to succeed in pageantry is to create an amazing life outside of it, because then you bring your life to pageantry. So I'm not a huge fan of professional pageant girl, as in just doing pageant, and never taking the time to work on yourself. Now, when I say professional, I like, if you're working hard on being a pageant girl, that's great. That's professionalism in a good way. But when I say professional pageant girl, please understand what I mean is someone who just does pageant, never takes time to do the self-development, to do the work, to build an advocacy, to go and do the volunteer work. They're just pageanting all the time. So that, if you're pageanting all the time and you have no interest in actually, working on the other areas of your life, then we're not going to be the coaches for you. But here's where so that's a dream outcome. So if that's you, keep watching. And then who are we looking to work with? This is where I started with Danielle and Gracie, because I think it's really important for you to know who are we looking at working with, so we can work out whether we're not only looking at you guys and going, who do we want to work with? You should be looking at us and going, do I want to work with these coaches or not? Because there are a lot of coaches out there. I don't know there are a lot of good ones out there. If it's anything like tennis coaching, and I've seen pageant coaching, so I shouldn't be too flippant about it, but a lot of coaches talk a good game. They certainly charge a good game, but I don't think they have the results to really back it up. And I say this because there's a stark lack of actual content out there showing these coaches, having these coaches actually demonstrate their actual skill. Now, there are a lot of testimonials, right? And there's a lot of, I won so-and-so title and I couldn't have done it without my coach XYZ. Can I just back up for a second? I'll give you this as an example, and I think this will be pertinent. I have a former client, coaching client, who had entered Miss World Australia. She subsequently went on to win Miss World Australia, did very well at Miss World International. She's, I believe it's called the Continental Queen or whatever it is. So she's like top 4, top 5 at Miss World International. And she has subsequently become the director of Miss World, superseding the old director. And her name is Kristen. Now, I've gotten to know Kristen very well, and she's a good friend of mine, and she gave me a lot of credit, probably more credit than I think I deserve, because at the end of the day, you guys have to go and do the work. It's not me doing the work. I might point you in the right direction, but you're still the one that has to do it. I'm just a guide. But my point is, she gave me that testimonial. I couldn't have won Miss World Australia without you. And I think that's verbatim. I think that's exactly what she stated. Now, behind the scenes, there was another coach who Kristen had contracted with previous to working with me, who had she was much more well known in the pageant industry because she had a fancy title. And she worked with Kristen once. I think it was okay. And then Kristen wanted to have more sessions with her, but this coach never got back to her, just sort of ghosted her and never got back to her. So then Kristen was like, hang on, I booked in it for a session with you, and we haven't nailed it down in terms of when we're going to have it, and you're not corresponding with me, like, what's going on here? And suffice to say, she never heard back from that coach again until Kristen, she won Miss World Australia. And then what happened? This well-known coach, who probably had glowing testimonials, then tried to take credit for Kristen's win. Now, this is all behind the scenes, right? Kristen, to her credit, said, I'm not having a bar of that. Like, Adrian helped me a lot more than you helped me. You didn't really help me at all. And so the whole point of that story is, yeah, testimonials, great. Are they trustworthy? I don't know. Especially in the pageant industry, it's so weird because a lot of coaches seem to insist on getting both payment and a testimonial. They'll say, give me your money, and oh, by the way, give me a testimonial. Now, if you want to give me a testimonial, that's great. But I don't think that once you're paying me, that I should force you to be tagging me in all your Instagram posts, right? You've paid me. If I was doing it for free, maybe that's part of the deal. That's different. But my point is, I have been frustrated with the quality of the coaching in the industry. I've heard people charging ludicrous amounts for no measurable results. I've also heard about coaches showing favoritism, which I didn't know was a thing, but that was probably naive of me. They've kind of only worked with the people who they think really have a chance at the title. I should have seen this on tennis coaching, because there are a lot of tennis coaches I worked with only wanted to work with the super high professional talented students. They didn't want to, in inverted commas, waste their time with people who didn't show promise or didn't have insane skills to begin with. Now I can resonate with that because I didn't have any tennis skill to begin with, which is why I coached myself. But there's either coaches who charge a lot, they don't really have the results to show it. They force testimonials, and you look at them and go, oh, I need to hire them because they're so well known. On the other hand, there are other coaches who have no real skill. They just happen to compete in a pageant once, and now they've decided to become a pageant coach. They probably don't charge much, but they probably do you more harm than good, if we're being honest. And so going into this coaching direction with Danielle and Gracie, here's what I said. Okay, who are we looking to work with? And again, if this resonates with you, send me a message or drop me an email. You can obviously find me on Instagram, Facebook, The Pageant Project. If you want to email me, info@thepageantproject.com. But here's who we're looking to work with. Someone who's not actually a complete beginner. I feel that when you're a complete beginner, you just go give it a go and see whether you like it or not. Now, I have worked with several beginners, but they have sort of found me out through watching my YouTube videos or hearing my podcast. And again, not so much the interviews, but watching the videos where I give some feedback, give some advice, and they've gone, this guy seems a bit crazy. He seems a bit off the hook. I want to sort of hear what he has to say. And so, when I say not complete beginner, that's a guideline, but it's in terms of weeding out people who aren't really serious and they just want to give it a go. If you just want to give it a go, I don't want to take your money. If you just want to go and have fun, just go and have fun. You don't need my advice or any coach's advice. If you just want to go have fun and then come back. Done 1 or 2 pageants. Okay, so not a complete beginner. But on the other hand, we don't want someone who's already won Miss Universe, Miss USA. I'm not sure how much value we have to give you. Maybe in life coaching, a lot, or starting up a business or a nonprofit, a lot, or how to do your makeup, a lot. But in terms of pageantry, I mean, if you've won the biggest titles in the world, you probably want to be moving on. So you've done 1 or 2 pageants, and here's the thing. You didn't do as well as maybe you'd like to. And so now you're a bit frustrated. You're also uncertain how to improve, and you might even have tried the best coaching, right? Those really ultra expensive, hey, I coached a Miss USA and testimonial this, testimonial that, tag me here. And you're like, yeah, that coach, just for whatever reason, maybe they work well with someone else, but it's not really the right fit for me. And also they charge me an arm, a leg, and a kidney. So I'm looking for another option. You are looking for some sort of edge, a competitive edge. You're probably quite competitive. All 3 of us, me, Gracie, and Daniel, we're all competitive in a nice way, I like to think, but we do want to win. We want to do our best, I should say. So you are hungry to improve. You're hungry to win. Doesn't mean you measure everything by winning, but it does mean that you are clear that you'd rather, if you're going to enter something, you might as well go in it to win it. And if you don't win it, but you have a great time, all right. But winning is preferable to losing. Let's put it that way. You're hungry to improve, hungry to win. You want honest feedback. Again, going back to Kristen, when I was chatting to her in terms of getting a testimonial, she described my coaching as a slap in the face. Now, I like to think, and it was a joke. She meant it in a good way, but as a wake-up call. You don't want a coach to just tell you that you're doing everything right, taking your money, telling you, hey, yeah, you're great, and then you haven't improved. In fact, if you're anything like me, I kind of like fast forward past the positive feedback and say, give me the negative feedback or give me the constructive criticism. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but again, if you resonate with that, you don't want the sugar. You want tell me how I can get better. You're probably in the right place. And so you're hungry to improve and win. You want the honest feedback. And here's the thing, you probably lack a solid plan as to how to actually get from where you are to where you want to get to. That's probably the biggest thing, because there's all sorts of different little tactics I would say you could do. You could walk more, you could work out more, you could interview more, you could do blah, 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 blah. But how do I put this into a cohesive strategy so that I'm not just doing tactics all day? Like I'm going here to have a walking session, then an interview session, then I'm going to see my wardrobe person, and then what are we actually doing here? So someone to help you form that strategic plan, which is, by the way, what a lot of my clients come to me for, is actually that overview, that 50,000 foot view of here's what I want to achieve first. Let me get that clear in my head. And then filtering down to the tactics, which, by the way, if you're watching this, you're more than intelligent enough, hungry enough, driven enough to do those little tactics by yourself. But maybe you need help getting that singular vision as to, okay, if I'm going to spend a year chasing this title, putting in the work, I'm going to make sure I need to know exactly with clarity where I'm heading and why. Okay. So you might lack a solid plan, and you're looking, maybe also related to this, you're looking for confirmation that you're on the right path. So yes, this plan, it encompasses everything that I want to do. It's not leaving any major chunks out. I'm not questioning, is this authentic to me? It's like, yes, okay, this is as good as I can make it now, and I'm happy with it. Now let's go forward, full throttle. Again, viewing pageant as a gateway to opportunities. You don't just have, I want to win a pageant title and that's it. And when I win a pageant title, I'm going to be so important. And if I don't win a pageant title, I'm going to be depressed for the rest of my life. You're not that person. You know, though, that pageants are a gateway to great opportunities and to networking with amazing people. And again, I've already mentioned this, but you're high achieving in all areas of your life. You probably wouldn't think of that, but you know that you are. You're high achieving, you're intelligent, you're driven, you're hungry, you're very busy, you're probably time poor. And so if you're going to put time into this, especially with coaching, you're going to want to know that, hey, this coaching is really for me, which again is why I'm doing this stuff. Doing all the free stuff with Danielle and Gracie is so that you can work out whether we're actually going to be a good fit for one another. So that is who we're looking to work with. And again, this came after working out who we're looking for, but I think the dream outcome is important for you guys to know upfront, winning your dream title and creating an amazing life as a result. Okay, so I know this has been a slightly manic and unhinged video. That's kind of the way that I work at the best of times. But in terms of next steps, I highly recommend go follow me on Instagram at the Pageant Project if you haven't already done so. And specifically, go and join our new broadcast channel. We named it Rise and Reign, like rise and shine, rise and shine, but it's rise and reign as in a reigning queen. So REIGN, not rise and raining on me, which it's actually raining outside. But the reason I want you to do that is because that's where I feel most of the pageant community is centered around, on Instagram as a platform. I don't have any particular preference, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, but it seems most pageant girls, the one platform they're all going to be on is Instagram. So that's just where we're focusing. And the broadcast channel, not because I want to get more followers. It's not that. It's because that's the best way for you to make sure that you get the questions and the questions for feedback from me and from Danielle and from Gracie as to what is it that you actually want in terms of coaching that hits all the points that I've already discussed in this video, but that's also affordable at an affordable price point. Not cheap, by the way. I have no intention of being bargain basement, but I was saying to Daniel and Gracie, we want to make sure that we're value, right? If you charge someone $10, you better be sure you give them, $20 of value. They're going to come back. On the other hand, some of these coaches, I've heard $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a couple of months, and I'm looking at it going, well, what are you actually getting? I'm not going to be happy if I charge you even $10 and you go, well, you got $9 worth of value from that. So that broadcast channel is going to be the easiest and most painless way for me to communicate with you, to ask you, what is it that you want to see? What questions do you want us to answer? But also to actually say, hey, thanks for joining this channel. Here's a special offer just for you. Now, when I say that, it's not just hyperbole. I've literally been messaging Danielle and Gracie just this morning saying, hey, on our first live, which we'll be doing on Sunday, Sunday night EST time. Again, go to Instagram for that, because I don't know when you're watching this YouTube video or listening to this podcast. It could be 2025, at which point next Sunday, no, maybe we are doing one, but the timeline will be screwed up. But I've said, in terms of going to the broadcast channel, doing a live, is there something that we could offer people like a reward for being the first people to sign up? And I have an offer lined up for probably the first 3 people who want to take me up on it. And Gracie and Danielle have something similar in the works, but it's going to be for people who are in that broadcast channel, because those people are the most engaged and the most, they're getting in early. So they have an amount of faith in us. And I want to repay that faith. I want to get started start the relationship in a good way. And again, like if you're watching on YouTube, listening to a podcast, that's great. Thank you so much. But it's harder to interact, especially on a podcast. There's very little in the way that I can get feedback from you. And YouTube doesn't have quite the interaction that Instagram does. So in terms of next steps, if you've been watching this and going, hey, that person that you want to work with, that sounds like me, and you sound unhinged enough and crazy enough for me to want to work with you, then go follow me on Instagram at the Pageant Project. Join that broadcast channel. and keep an eye on that broadcast channel, because it'd be like getting DMs straight from me. Keep an eye on that broadcast channel in terms of when we ask you, what is it you want to see? Or do you want to jump on a live with us? I've had 2 lives so far in the broadcast channel where I've got people to just join in on the call. And that's not something I've seen in pageant space. So I literally jump on a call, ask me a question live, and I'll deal with it live. That sort of a thing, which comes from my live coaching experience, by the way. And I've loved interacting. Angela was on the first one. Mary was on the second one. And by the way, another big thing with this is we're going to be international. Mary is from the UK, Angela was from the US, and I'm from Australia. And so this is something, again, that will also set us apart, not just in terms of not just being one coach, but being 3 coaches and maybe more in the future, but also having that international experience and that international community. So let me leave it there. I hope it's very clear who we're looking to work with and what we're looking to achieve. We're going to be looking to build out our coaching offering with you guys. I don't want to say, hey, here's what we've done, here's what we've built, we've done a course, we wrote a book, we did this, we did that. Now go and buy it from us. And you look at it going, no one would want this. This is not what I want. Are you crazy? I wanted this, so I wanted that. So we really want to build it out with you. And I think that's what's most exciting about this, is not only in terms of getting super clear to who we want to work with, which I've talked about enough, but let me ask you, what is it that you guys most want, most need? What's been most lacking from the coaching? Is it the mindset stuff? Is it the walking stuff? Is it the interview stuff? Is it branding? Is it building your platform? Is it all these social media things? Is it you just need someone to help guide you through some of the, trials and tribulations that come with being in the industry? I could make assumptions about that. But even as someone who's interviewed hundreds of pageant contestants from all around the world, I know that's not the right way to do it. So get on Instagram, follow, subscribe to that broadcast channel, and interact with me. Please tell me what you want, because the more you do that, the more value that I can give you. And when I say that, I mean, you tell me what you want and I'm going to try and give it to you. I'm not going to just give you I'm not going to build something and say, here, take it. This is what you should want. So please do that. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Follow me on Instagram if you're not already. Go to that broadcast channel and I'll speak to you next time.